Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is JohnJake Baseball on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the USBL here on MLB The Show 21. And we got a great game in store for us here. We actually got some great games all over the USBL. It's going to be a really good one, so you're going to want to make sure that you smash that like button, you hit subscribe if you have to be brand new, man, and also hit me up down in the comments as well, as we got, once again, some great USBL action here. We start out here in New Orleans. We're watching the New York Knights and the New Orleans Kings go off against each other, and these are two teams that are both fighting to make it to the wild card in their respective conferences. So we'll see what ends up going down here as New Orleans does jump off to a 1-0 lead thanks to a solo shot from Ryan Hopkins. As we now see Wilmer Flores up to the plate. He's batting .245 so far this season. He's going to get involved in the offense as well. And look at this. The right fielder tries to dive for it. It does not work out as Wilmer Flores, who's not known for his speed, ends up getting a double out of that. So a nice start by New Orleans overall. He will end up being stranded on base. As Ramon Laureano of the New York Knights, he comes up to the plate. He sends this out deep in the center field, and that's gone as well. So New York, they do go ahead and quickly respond. The 28th home run this season for him, as Mike Moustakas batting .289 as of this season so far. Getting close to that 100 RBI milestone. We'll see if he can hit it this episode, and this will certainly help. RBI number 97, and the second time that the New York Knights go yard, give them the lead courtesy of that 33rd home run of the season. They will not get any more runs, but if this is any indicator of how this game is going to go, we have an exciting one here to start this episode for sure, as Nestor Cortez Jr. comes to the game for the New Orleans Kings. 55th appearance of the season for him, as they try to make sure that it stays 2-1. But hang on, here we have yet another solo shot, another one from Mike Moustakas, the 34th home run of the season for him. Although Grandal does end up striking out swinging, does end up doing a little bit of window shopping, but for the time being, though, the New York Knights do go ahead and extend their lead here. They now have a 3-1 lead, as the home run ball, that is one thing that the New York Knights do an extremely good job. They love to go yard here, and we're seeing it in full display here. How about 4 home runs in one game, as we got Ramon Laureano with another home run, 29th of the season for him. And it helps just continue to expand this lead that the New York Knights got going on, even with the strikeout by Nolan Arenado. You see the Knights only have 6 hits in this entire game. 4 of those are home runs. I'm not even joking with you right now. As we do cut to the top of the 9th inning, we'll see if these New York Knights can go ahead, add a little bit more insurance just in case New Orleans Kings try to go ahead and try to make a rally here late in this ball game. Although yet another home run for New York, the 5th one of this game. This time Renaud Eldor, 23rd home run of the season, is now Ronald Guzman. He comes up to the plate. He's going to go deep as well, but this is going to actually end up in the yard. That's going to end up being a double here. We'll see if the New York Knights can go ahead and try to manufacture a run without having to use that home run ball. As Kenneth Falefa, he ends up striking out. You hate to see it, because you hate to leave a runner at second base. As now we have Ramon Laureano. He hit a home run earlier. He also ends up striking out. So 2 strikeouts in a row, which is why New York has kind of struggled in terms of keeping up in the division race. They sometimes have a hard time manufacturing offense if it's not through that home run ball. It's been a real weakness for them on the offensive side, but they will hang on and win this game. But we will end up defeating the New Orleans Kings by a final score of 6-1, as New York does trying to go ahead and keep up here in the AL wildcard race with the Cleveland Rockers pulling away. Nice win for New York as they won this game. But we'll go to another team that really struggled in the month of August, but they're really starting to find their rhythm once again. The San Jose Marauders. Now, remember, these guys were buyers at the trade day. They went after Matt Chapman to improve that third base position in expense of some prospects that maybe could have been helpful in the future. But San Jose was all in for this season for sure with the acquisition of Matt Chapman from the Denver Bald Eagles. But they just collapsed in the month of August, and they're trying to work themselves back from that. But they need to win this game here, in order to maximize the opportunity to go to the inaugural USBL playoffs. This is not going to help them early on. Las Vegas getting a couple of runs thanks to Marlon Gonzalez, as Shohei Ohtani will end up settling down later on in the inning. Will end up getting the strikeout, but this has been a problem for San Jose. Slow starts in the baseball game, and now they're playing catch up here as we do see Matt Chapman come up to the plate here. He been doing some good stuff overall. 4th place in OPS for the San Jose Marauders, and will improve on that as well, as Matt Chapman is going to end up with a double. He might have an RBI. We got to throw it home, and he's safe, somehow managing to dodge the tag. Anthony Rizzo able to get home, so they cut the lead in half. Matt Chapman will end up being stranded at home. And Las Vegas is not done yet here. They're going to end up getting a double from Cody Bellinger. As now Miguel Sano, he's going to come up to the plate. He's going to end up striking out swinging. And that will end up being the 4th strikeout of the day for him, as Lourdes Guerrero Jr. comes up to the plate now, batting .264, has 20 home runs and 64 ribbies so far in the inaugural USBL season. Shohei Ohtani with the 1-1 pitch, and he sends this deep in the center field. Is it going to be gone? No, it does not leave the outfield. But that being said, though, that was a really nice hit ball overall, as now Travis Denard comes up to the plate. We've seen him have some great games in the USBL earlier this season, but he has cooled off. He's down to .248 on the season, but this will help him get right back up, though, as Lourdes Guerrero Jr. is going to be able to score. Travis Denard is going to be able to get a double, and Las Vegas is going to end up with another run on the board here in order to go ahead and make this a 4-1 lead, as we got a steal for third base, but that does not work whatsoever. Travis Denard trying to be aggressive, but that did not work out whatsoever. But San Jose's got to get going here, man. They only have 1 hit in this entire game so far. That is still the case, as Zach Wheeler has continued to deal against the San Jose offense, which, keep in mind, they added to this offense, as Anthony Rizzo will try to get these guys back on track. He's been hitting the ball really well from a power perspective, but .241, that certainly could be a little bit higher. He did draw a walk back in the 4th inning. We'll see if he can get himself on base again, as we have a 1-2 count here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Zach Wheeler trying to finish the inning out, and he's going to send this out of here. No doubter whatsoever. Solo shot. And Anthony Rizzo with his 35th home run of the season. So a 2-run game here, as Danny Duffy, making his 7th appearance of the season, hasn't had a lot of experience. He was a recent call-up for the month of September, and already not working out whatsoever. The inexperience showing from this season, as Marvin Gonzalez, 16th home run of the season, takes advantage of him, but will end up settling down. Doesn't allow another run for the rest of the inning. But that being said, not a good look whatsoever, as Danny Duffy will still remain in the game. Travis Denard, he's going to send this out into right field. Is it going to carry out of the park? Yes, it does. So Travis Denard with a multi-home run game here. And they go to the bullpen once again. Ryan Stanek comes in. 77th appearance of the season. He's seen a lot of baseball, and it's showing here early. Ends up getting the strikeout to start his appearance. As they come back around to Marwin Gonzalez, they batted around, these Las Vegas Lounge Wizards did, and he's going to end up striking out as well. So needed some help calming down a little bit, and they certainly got just that. But now San Jose has to make a rally, and it starts with Mike Trout. He's been pretty quiet today, 0 for 3. This will certainly help. You know Mike Trout's got a heck of a bat, and he sends this out. Gone. Solo shot for Mike Trout, number 33 on the season. As now, Max Stassel looks to keep it going here. Can they add another run here in the bottom of the 9th? Trying to keep the game alive, but that is as close as they're going to get. San Jose cannot rally from this ball game, and Las Vegas playing some spoiler here late in the month of September. We will end up seeing them win this game by a score of 7-3, dwindling the chances. But another game that I want to go ahead and highlight here is the San Francisco Seals. They are at home. They are hosting the Charlotte Cougars, who did work themselves up to 4th place. We'll see who's starting for both teams. Logan Webb making his 4th start for the Seals. And then Luis Siriano with a 10-12 record, his 30th start of the year for the Charlotte Cougars. So we'll see what ends up going down here as Luis Siriano, he's off to a pretty good start. Able to get Reyes to strike out swinging. We'll see if he can keep it going here against Paul Goldschmidt. He does. So 2 strikeouts in the first 3 batters faced for Luis Siriano. He's off to a pretty good start here, but can he keep it up against Josh Donaldson? He is pretty good against right-handed pitching, 294 on this season, and it's gonna keep going right here. That ball is gone, just carries over the wall. It is a 3-run home run, and San Francisco with a 3-0 lead here. We'll see how long they can keep it going, as we'll see if the Charlotte Cougars can go ahead, play themselves a little bit of spoiler here. They are pretty much out of the race, but Logan Webb's been doing some pretty good stuff overall. 3 strikeouts here, hasn't been in any serious trouble yet. But Tim Anderson, he's a pretty good hitter himself, batting .281 so far this season, as he's going to send this one out into left field. This is going to end the shutout for Logan Webb. He's still a pretty young pitcher. He'll end up figuring some things out eventually, but for now, that is the 30th home run for Tim Anderson. As it will cut to the bottom of the 4th inning here, we'll see if Luis Siriano can keep this to a 2-run game or not, as Ozzy Albies, he's going to go ahead. He's going deep in the right field. Right fielder tried to dive for it, and luckily the bounce back was very friendly. He has the speed to stretch that out to a triple. Don't you forget about that. But the San Francisco Seals will still have a runner in scoring position, and not wasting any time. How about another home run for San Francisco, the second one of the day? Randall Grichuk able to make this a 4-run game. But can the Charlotte Cougars start making a rally here? We'll see. Starting to run out of time here. Joey Votto, and I can already hear Cincinnati Reds Twitter. Joey still bangs. 23rd home run of the season for Joey Votto. It comes at a big time. It is only a solo shot, though, as Blake Parker will come into the game now, trying to make sure San Francisco at least does not get any more insurance. The Charlotte Cougars are already in a pretty tough spot as of right now, as Blake Parker looking to pitch to Victor Reyes on this 1-1 count. Here comes a delivery, and how about this for Victor Reyes? Gone like a girl in a country song. Home run, the 8th one of the season. As now Joe Panic, he ends up striking out. Doesn't like the call, but will remain in the game because we don't believe in ejections. Our umps, we make sure they didn't have an actual ego to throw people out, because some people didn't like what they were saying, and MLB looking at you. But going back to the game, though, top of the 8th inning here, as Charlotte still finds itself down by, well, was 4 runs, but now it's just a 3-run game thanks to the solo shot of Marcell Ozuna, which does force San Francisco to go to the bullpen. Shane Green will come in now, 40th appearance of the season, and, well, Shane Green, could have done a little bit better. A little blooper out into left center field. That does bring in another run, and Charlotte will now go ahead and make this a 2-run game, as Adam Engel is going to come in and be a pinch runner. But not only that, but also Charlie Culberson coming to the game as well as pinch runners, trying to get some more speed. They understand that this is a really critical moment, but Gary Sanchez, though, they're going to let him bat. He's only batting .204, but how about this for a clutch moment right here? Free run shot is going to carry out of here, and all of a sudden, Gary Sanchez gives the Charlotte Cougars a lead to actually work with. Oh my goodness. Although Jalen Davis will strike out here, that is a massive inning for the Charlotte Cougars, who are trying to also play spoiler for the San Francisco Seals. They are deep in the wild card hunt, and it's a close race, and I'm going to show you guys the standings as we get closer, but it's every game counts. I know there's 162 games in a season, but all of these games continue to count, as this game, top of the 9th inning, there's going to be another run scored for Charlotte. How about the bats going alive for the Charlotte Cougars? And we always knew they were capable of this throughout the season. We're finally seeing it. Adam Engel, who came in as a pinch runner, is still going to also come in, get a hit, an RBI, and the rest was history, especially in Raisel Iglesias. He doesn't make many mistakes on the mound, and you saw it here too. So Charlotte also stunning a team in the wild card hunt in the San Francisco Seals, pulling a Las Vegas, and these Charlotte Cougars will end up winning by a score of 8-6. Alright guys, so that was actually the last of the, nationally televised games that would be featured, for the USBL for the rest of the regular season. And, just taking a look at the standings, we got roughly, like 2 weeks of baseball left here before we go ahead and get into postseason action. And for the most part here, the divisions are pretty locked up. Cleveland Rockers have firm control over the AL East. The Chicago Freeze have a firm control over the AL Central. AL West leaning towards the Houston Astronauts, but the Seattle Pilots still might have something to say about that. National League East, though, that's probably going to go to Philadelphia Patriots, barring a major, letdown. And then the National League West probably will go to the LA Saints. The NL Central, though, is getting really interesting, though. Indianapolis Indians currently in first place, 75-75. Aurora only 1 game back. Memphis Bobcats, they're a couple games back. The Louisville Colonials, 4.5 games back here as well on top of that. And it's a really big deal here because, these 4 teams right here would usually be right out of the running for the running wild card right now. So you have to win this division if you're an AL Central team, if you want to go to the playoffs at least. That's what it's looking like. So that's one division race to watch out for. But that's really the only thing that's really like a really competitive race. The wild card, though, is a different story right now. Over for the NL wild card, it's going down to 3 different teams. Got the New Orleans Kings, who currently have the first wild card spot. The Washington Senators, they actually surpassed the San Francisco Seals thanks to their loss to the Charlotte Cougars. So Washington's second right now. The San Francisco Seals are in third thanks to their 2-game losing streak. There's a couple teams that might have a chance, Aurora, Charlotte, and Memphis. It's not out of the question, but it is considered a long shot at this point. In the NL wildcard, it's turning into a 3-team race. Meanwhile, for the American League wildcard, we have the Minnesota Ducks, who have the first wildcard spot to themselves. And then right now, it's a 2-way tie for the last wildcard spot in the American League, the Seattle Pilots and Baltimore Stone Crabs are tied for that second wild card spot. And then the New York Knights are just half a game out. So they are certainly, can make a run depending on what they do in the last couple of weeks of the season. Remember, this is a team that has a ton of power, so if they can get in the playoffs, that would be something to see as well. San Jose, they're trying to do something, but I mean, they're starting to run out of time. They just had a really awful August. It might absolutely cost them, but we'll look around and see if we can find some box scores here as we get ready to end this season. See if we end up with any tiebreakers, because it could certainly happen with these wildcard spots especially. All right, so we are going to go ahead and check out, one of the first games on the board, and that is the Aurora versus Louisville. Going to go ahead and quick manage to see how, things shake out here, as we get into the end of the season. It's a tightly contested ball game here. Neither team really giving much of an inch as Louisville tries to make a comeback and does get it out to extra innings. Aurora does end up responding, get a couple runs on the board, but the Aurora Lightning, they beat the Louisville Colonials 4-2 here, and that will certainly help their division chances. Meanwhile, the very next day, the Indianapolis Indians try to go ahead and hang on to their first place in the NL Central right now. They gotta beat these Minnesota Ducks, man. Minnesota, they got some things to play for as well. Can't win their respective division, but if they can take care of business as well, they can go ahead and go to the playoffs as well through the wild card. And another timely contested game here as well. It's 4-2 in favor of Minnesota, but it looks like the Minnesota Ducks are going to go ahead and pull away. And Fernando Tatis Jr. gets named player of the game here, 2 for 3, 2 ribbies, 2 doubles, even a stolen base as well, and drew a couple of walks. He, was a very big deal here in helping Minnesota get this win. Meanwhile, the Louisville Colonials, they are just simply trying to hang on for dear life here as, they lost the last game versus Aurora. So now Louisville's kind of in a scrambling mode. They have to beat these Washington Senators if they want to stay in that NL Central race here. But right now, it's not looking too good. The Washington Senators, they jump out to a 4-0 lead right now. Yu Darvish is no longer in the game as well. He wasn't bad, but the Louisville offense has just not produced anything. Only 5 hits total. The bats go quiet at a really bad time. And the Washington Senators, led by Jimmy Nelson, who had himself a complete game, by the way. 9 innings pitched, only allowed 5 hits, only 1 walk too, and 5 strikeouts on top of it. Helps beat the Louisville Colonials to help try to solidify that wild card spot for Washington, as they're in the thick of it in that race as well. But you want to talk about how close things are in the NL Central right now. Memphis and Indianapolis are separated by just 1 game. And we're talking about, the 3rd place team in the Memphis Bobcats and the Indianapolis Indians, who are currently in 1st place as of right now. So if Memphis wins this game, they will be now tied for the division lead. And 162 games, if these 2 teams are tied for the division crown, then, it might go into like a game 163 to determine who ends up winning the pennant. But right now, Indianapolis, they're winning 2-0. Memphis trying to get something going. They do get a run in the top of the 9th inning, but the Indianapolis Indians, they stave off the Memphis Bobcats. For right now, they win 2-1. It was a close battle, but Indianapolis does increase their lead over the Memphis Bobcats. So as we go ahead and take another look at the standings here once more, as we now move into the final week of the regular season, we do have a few division champions. The Cleveland Rockers do end up winning the American League East and look like they might end themselves with the number 2 seed in the American League. So they'll probably play the Houston Astronauts. The Chicago Freeze, right now 97-59, they have clinched the AL Central. They currently have the best record, at least in the American League. So unless they have a little bit of a collapse here, they'll likely play the winner of the wild card game, whatever ends up happening out of that. Houston has not clinched it yet, but are looking pretty good. They have a sizable lead on Seattle. Barring a pretty big collapse, I feel Houston will probably win the AL West at this division, but the AL wildcard, still some things to sort out. Baltimore and Minnesota currently tied for the wildcard lead. We still also have the Seattle Pilots, and we also have the New York Knights that are both one game out from going to that wild card. So things getting extremely tight here in the American League wild card. It could be going down to the final league, literally, to decide who goes to the playoffs in the wild card. Meanwhile, over in the National League East, the Philadelphia Patriots have clinched the NL East and could have the best record in the entire National League. So congratulations to the Philadelphia Patriots. In the NL Central, though, things still getting pretty interesting. Louisville out of the running. They, are faded down the stretch here, especially. They had a chance, but, not so much. Memphis starting to fall off, but I don't want to call them out just yet. Aurora Lightning only 2 games out themselves, so they can still make a run for the division crown. We'll see if Indianapolis can go ahead and hold these guys off. Meanwhile, for the NL West, looks the Los Angeles Saints with a 7-game lead over the San Francisco Seals. So they haven't officially clinched, but they will probably end up winning the NL West. And then we got the NL wildcard. NL wildcard, we still have a 2-way tie for the second wildcard seed. We have the New Orleans Kings, 84-71. They got the first wildcard spot. And then it's San Francisco and Washington, still literally tied for that second wildcard seed. Everyone else basically eliminated. Aurora's close to being eliminated. Charlotte close to being eliminated. The Memphis Bobcats being close to being eliminated. It's a 3-team race for the last 2 spots in the playoff, potentially. So it's getting crazy out here, man. We'll see what ends up going down. We'll see if we can see if any of these teams play against each other and show the box score for that. Do a little quick manage action. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and see some more box scores as we get into the final week of this regular season. Alright, so the only game that I could actually find is this Indianapolis vs. Aurora series. Right now, Aurora is 3 games back from the Indianapolis Indians. And Aurora is the second place team, by the way. So if Indianapolis wins this game, it's going to be done, set in stone. But right now, Aurora not trying to go out quietly. They did, had the early lead. But Indianapolis, look at this. They put up a 7th spot on the Aurora Lightning. It's going to be really hard to come back from that. And they're going to keep going, too. 17 runs on the board. Make that 18 runs. And Aurora fumbling the bag here in a big way. The Indianapolis Indians winning 20-6 in this ball game, man. I am not joking. Jose Altuve with a big performance. 2 home runs, 4 ribbies, a double, a walk. Doing a little bit of everything out here, man. Helping this Indianapolis Indian squad win this ball game. You'll love to see it. That being said, though, while the Indianapolis and Aurora game was getting settled in the background, we do also find out that the LA Saints on the same day do officially clinch the NL West. So the LA Saints will at least be the 2 seed over on the NL side of the playoffs. With San Francisco, they were eliminated from the division title. Their only hope now is to go to the playoffs via the wild card game. In the NL wild card, it's still getting tight. We do have the New Orleans Kings at 86-71, but 1 game behind them. The San Francisco Seals, and a half game behind them is the Washington Senators. They are simply a half game out. It's going to the wire. Meanwhile, for the American League side, things are even more chaotic. The Seattle Pilots, 85-73. Meanwhile, Baltimore and Minnesota still tied for that second wild card spot. Things are getting insane. The New York Knights as well, just 1 game out of the wild card. They can also make a run. For basically 7 teams, even at this point of the season, are fighting for 4 playoff spots. It's getting wild out here, man. I cannot believe that it's going down. Even, look at this. San Jose, they're actually trying to go ahead and make a run here. They have really pulled something out their butt. They are trying to surge forward. They still have a chance. They're trying to stay alive as well. So San Jose, can they sneak into the playoffs as well? That would be something, and they can pull something like that off. Unfortunately, though, I did simulate a couple more days ahead. You know, basically what San Jose had to do, they had to win every single game from here on out. But they were thwarted by the San Jose, or not the San Jose, but the San Antonio Outlaws. They lost one of their games to them. They did take the series. They won 2 out of 3 games. But that being said, though, San Jose has been eliminated. So it was a good try for them to try to go ahead and make a run, but they will be an odd team that's out. And what an awkward thing for them as well, as they were buyers. They actually bought at the USBL trade day, and they're not going to get into the playoffs despite that. They're not the only team in danger of that. New York starting to fall off. They're very close to, you know, being eliminated. And then over in the NL wild card, still a 3-team race. It's going down to the wire. But even though we do understand that San Jose can no longer make the playoffs, they can still play spoiler, as Seattle is also deep in the hunt. As we go ahead and see what they do. And look at this. San Jose steals a win against Seattle. So Seattle, you know, now they need to win some games too. Now they're not, you know, guaranteed safe to make it in the playoffs right now. It's a close race across the board right now. Seattle barely hanging on. It's a freeway tie between Baltimore and Minnesota. That's for the AL wild card. New York trying to make a run as well. It's going to be a photo finish. We go check in on the Washington Senators now. Washington currently, you know, they're 1 game out of the wild card. You know, they gotta take care of business as well as win games. Hope that either New Orleans or even the trying to remember who else it was, the San Francisco Seals, they lose a game as well. They're playing against Boston. They were actually sellers on the trade day, but they lost their first game of the series. So hopefully Washington can win this game. Washington does end up taking care of business. They win 12-2. And we're down to the final game of the regular season. So looking at the standings just one more time. The divisions have been set. Houston did win the AL West. They will be the 3 seed and will take on, I'm thinking it's Cleveland in the playoffs. Meanwhile, for the AL wild card, the Minnesota Ducks, they got the one. Right now, they're all by themselves with the first wild card. Seattle and Baltimore, they're tied for the second wild card, and New York, they're still in it as well. New York has to win though. If they lose their final game, their season is over. They are going to be done. Meanwhile, for the NL wild card, same thing. New Orleans and San Francisco tied with the 2 wild card spots. Washington 1 game out. If they lose their game against Boston, they're going to be done as well. So, going to see some more box scores, going to see some more quick manage, see what's going to go down, let's see what's going to happen. So with that, we'll start off by taking a look at the box score, do a little quick managing between the Minnesota Ducks and the Nashville Blues. And Minnesota, if they win this, it's easy for them. Minnesota wins this game, they will be going to the playoffs as the first wild card. They will have that clinch. And right now, it's a tight ball game, 1-0 affair. Neither team really getting much going. Minnesota does get a second run on the board. They add 3 more in the 9th inning, but Nashville storms back, and this game is now tied up at 5 apiece now. Things are getting wild here, but Minnesota ends up coming out on top, defeating the Nashville Blues by a final score of 6-5. And that does mean that Minnesota, they will secure the first wild card over in the American League. Meanwhile, the Seattle Pilots have been on a little bit of a downturn. They're in trouble of maybe potentially collapsing here. They are currently tied for the second wild card spot between them and Baltimore. So If Seattle wins this game, they can put the pressure on Baltimore. They do have to play against the Cleveland Rockers. If Seattle wins, then New York will also be eliminated. It will not matter what New York does. So if New York, they have to win. They also need to hope that both Seattle and Baltimore lose their games. So we'll see what happens here in this game between San Jose and Seattle. Can the San Jose Marauders, can they play spoiler and then go ahead and sweep Seattle in order to go ahead and end this season? Right now, Seattle trying to have something to say about that. It's a pretty competitive ball game here early. San Jose does end up taking the lead briefly, but it's a back and forth affair. San Jose putting up 4 runs in the 6th inning. They put up another 4 in the 7th. And San Jose, they're going to pull away here. Huge victory for the San Jose Marauders. They win 25-7. And now for Seattle to get into the playoff or at least force a tie. Either Baltimore has to lose or New York has to lose. It's not looking great for Seattle all of a sudden. But that being said, though, we'll see if what New Orleans can do here as well. New Orleans, they're in that situation where if they can win this game right here against the Charlotte Cougars, who could reach 500 at the very least, it would not be a bad season for Charlotte by any stretch of the imagination. But if New Orleans does end up winning this game, New Orleans will get themselves the first wildcard spot in the NL. And that being said, Charlotte, they're really determined to reach 500. It's a 5-0 lead for the Cougars right now, and it's a back and forth affair, but the Charlotte Cougars do end up defeating the one and only New Orleans Kings. So New Orleans got swept, and so did Seattle as well. Wow. Things getting absolutely wild. Here's the NL wildcard standings. 87-75 is what they finished. So, since New Orleans lost, Washington has a chance to at least force a tie and force a play-in game that would happen in the next episode. So, Washington, though, they do need to go ahead and win their next game. And speaking of their next game, it is also against Boston. Last game of the season here. Can Boston play spoiler? If Washington loses this game, it's simple. Season over. Nothing that could be done. We'll see what's going to happen. Still tied at 0 apiece here. Haven't even seen any hits, really. But Boston puts up a 6th spot here in the top of the 5th inning. And they're going to pull away here unless Washington has some hopes and dreams. But running out of time, though, and the Washington Senators lose. So a golden opportunity to make the playoffs, but they will be denied on the last final day. And because the Washington Senators lose, that means both the San Francisco Seals and the New Orleans Kings will end up going to the playoffs. The question will be, though, who will have the first wildcard seed? Who will have the second wildcard seed? That will decide who ends up hosting that wildcard playoff game. So we'll check up on San Francisco later. But that being said, we still have some things to settle here. Seattle, since they lost, they are now hoping for Baltimore to lose. If Baltimore wins, season's over for both Seattle and for the New York Knights. So, that being said, we'll go ahead and check out the Baltimore game. Baltimore, they're playing up against the Cleveland Rockers. It's a rubber match between these two squads. So, with that being said, here we go. If Baltimore wins, they will, I believe they will actually go about clinch the second playoff spot. And right now, Baltimore with a 2-0 lead. We'll see if Cleveland can make something happen here. And Cleveland puts up an 8th spot. Oh my goodness. And the Cleveland Rockers defeat the Baltimore Stone Crabs by a final score of 8-3. So Cleveland, they're 98-64 here in this season. Wow. There's nothing else I can say. So Seattle stays alive because of that. And now New York, if they can win their game, they can force themselves into conversation. We could have ourselves a freeway tie for the last wild card. But before we do that, of course, I'm going to say before we go ahead and do that, man. Before I go ahead and do that, let's go ahead. We'll check out the San Francisco versus San Diego game. Now, if San Francisco wins this game, they will automatically have they'll be hosting the wild card playoff spot. We'll see if San Diego can do something about that. Right now, no one has scored yet, but San Francisco does end up scoring 1 run here in this ball game. Up 1-0 here as San Diego does end up getting a run in the top of the 9th inning, but San Francisco gets a run in the bottom of the 9th. Framber Valdez named player of the game. We're seeing quite a bit of complete games from some folks over in like this quick manage setting, but San Francisco does end up defeating the San Diego Whales by a final score of 2-1. So that will mean that San Francisco, they get the first wildcard spot, and they will be hosting the New Orleans Kings in the playoffs. But the final question that needs to be answered, can New York force their way into maybe that second wildcard conversation? Jose Urquidy, who is, has the lowest ERA of any starting pitcher in the USBL. He's taken the mound against the Atlanta Barons, who are 71-90 right now. So Atlanta, they have struggled throughout the course of the season. Actually, last place in the AL East. But Atlanta, at the same time here, they can potentially go ahead and play spoiler for this New York baseball team, as New York does have a 1-0 lead. Make that a 3-0 lead as Atlanta does respond. Still down by 2 runs, though, for the time being. Atlanta, they put up a 5 spot, so now it's a 6-3 lead in favor of Atlanta. New York cannot respond next. Top of the 8th, Atlanta gets another insurance run. So, that being said, down by 4 of their last 3 outs, but Atlanta playing spoiler, and New York will miss the playoffs. They were buyers at the trade day, and oh my goodness gracious. So, that being said, though, we will have a tie for the last playoff spot. There's going to be a tiebreaker between the Seattle Pilots and the Baltimore Stonecrabs for that second and last playoff spot in the USBL. And you know what that also means? That's something that we'll probably have to sort out next episode, just out of curiosity. Let's go ahead and just sim for the rest of his day and see what ends up happening here, see what ends up shaking. And yeah, it looks like Seattle and Baltimore are going to have to do a 1-game showdown. Baltimore versus Seattle. And then we'll also play the wild card games in the next episode. It's going to be a great one. This has been a fantastic season of the USBL. And if you're excited as well for it, I do encourage you, hit that like button. Hit subscribe if you have to be brand new. As this is JohnJake Gaming on the mic signing off. But I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.